I was born into a really bicultural background. When I was 7 years old, my mom moved to the States, married an American man, and my brothers and I came to live here in Texas. I remember at the breakfast table, my mom used to make bacon and eggs and grits for my stepdad. And then at the same table, my brothers and I used to have machacado con huevo and fresh flour tortillas and some chorizo. And this was my family. Very early on, I understood that my mother, insistent that we retain our Mexican heritage, used to make these piñatas for us. So growing up, even though I couldn't really quite understand English, there was this powerful piñata that brought us together in celebration, and black kids, white kids, Mexican, all of us were congregating around this piñata and bashing it down and then getting the candy and then eating the enchiladas afterwards. And I understand there the power of the piñata and the power of celebration to transcend cultures before language could even connect us. This was a powerful lesson for me, and throughout my life, very early on, I was always that party girl. I loved celebrations. I knew they could bring us all together. And so very early on, as a matter of fact, here in Dallas, Texas, I remember being a teenager and going to the Start Club and going in and discovering this whole new world. And there I was in the dance floor and just transformed by all of the energy, the outrageous costumes, the people. I love the nightlife. And throughout my life, then I went to seek more of this. And I moved to many countries and places, always seeking this cultural convergence through artistic self-expression. I love the DJs, I love the dance floors. They were a conduit for me to express myself and at the same time connect and congregate with all these different countries, nationalities, socioeconomic backgrounds near me and around me. I remember my feet dancing to these salsa moves, to these electronic beats, and so at once I felt really connected to my cultural heritage, but then at the same time connected to everyone else in the room. And I lived for this. I found the power of these events transformative, and they helped me communicate with my fellow human being. I think everyone here has been to these celebrations, whether they be at nightclubs. We celebrate births, birthdays. We celebrate graduations, bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras, sweet 16s, weddings. But one thing we don't celebrate is death. Why don't we celebrate death? Here in America, we fear death, and I believe there's a societal implication for this. We deny it. When our dead are buried, they're gone. There's no connection. And I think there's a missed opportunity in this. The first time I came across a strong family member dying, I remember I was living in Barcelona. And my mother called me and told me that my beloved grandmother, Mama Kela, had passed away. And I didn't know what to do. It's like I had to slow down and stop for a moment. And I remember I saw a sewing machine, and I took her picture, and I put it there, and I lit a candle, and I made some overly sweetened Nescafe tea with 3 teaspoons, and I put some migas con huevo there, and I did what I could, inventing a new mythology, a new religion, something else I could somehow connect to. And that night I went out, and I danced. And I danced, and I danced, and I danced, and I danced, and I danced. Until the tears and the sorrow and everything washed over me. And I understood that the power of dancing and connecting to her spirit and having her inside of me somehow empowered me. And it helped wash away the sorrow. And it helped me transform and empower myself and allowed me to have her spirit live within me, connecting me to her and to her grandmother. And every time I have events, somehow she's always there in the background. Another place I've encountered And I feel there's a real need for all of us to come together collectively and transform this grief, this collective grief, this loss that we all have, into a type of a celebration. One of the places where I encountered a display of loss, I organize a TEDx event at Black Rock City. I also do it in Mexico. Black Rock City is a temporal city that exists in a festival called Burning Man. 50,000 people gather in the Nevada desert every year in a temporal city that is a gift of self-expression. And there's this temple constructed there. And in this temple, over the week, you see people coming around and bringing altars and notes and poetry and dancing and drumming and coming together. And there's grief. But during the grief, there's also joy. And there's this big transformation of artistic expression and death and birth and joy. And at the end of it, it's all burned down. Ashes to ashes. And thus we begin this cycle of life. And I feel there's something really powerful to learn from that. The second place I encountered a celebration of death was in Mexico. Since pre-Hispanic times and with the Aztecs and the Mayas seeking their journey into the sun, the Mexican culture has very much been connected with death. And at the turn of the century, the imagery you see here by José Guadalupe Posada is what brought us, many of you know, the Grateful Dead imagery. It all comes from here. So 5 years ago, I moved to Mexico seeking to get some roots, and instantly my nomadic feet were transported. I moved to the beautiful, magical colonial town of San Miguel de Allende, located in the heart of Mexico. For many years, it's an artist community that is very much a mix between Mexican, American, artists, bohemian, young and old. And by and large, we come there to be creative, self-expressive, and can live together. And every other day there's a party, so you know I love it there. And one of the most beautiful times of year is the Day of the Dead, where you see the marigolds, which are the bright orange is meant to call and beckon down the spirits down into your house. And so you see these trails leading to people's homes, leading the dead to come into their homes. And these private altars are made with the favorite food. And the cemeteries are alight with music and song, and people are arguing, hey, what did I? And they become this area of festivity and beauty and joy and sadness, all together in a beautiful soup. And people love dressing up. I love dressing up. These are my friend Julio's mom and dad. And promenades come through the street, and people are dressed as Katrinas being these very beautiful women, all skeletons. And they have this symbol of unity, because after all, everyone here is a skeleton. And so it's mocking death, it's laughing at death. And it's allowing it to come into our lives in a different story. So this last year, Ted asked, what would you do for your city, for the City 2.0 prize? And I thought, well, I'm going to make a party. It's the only thing I know how to do really well. And so we decided, a group of friends of ours, we decided to get together, American, Mexican, artists, international and national. And we got together to create a 4-day multidisciplinary festival called Laka Laka. Laka Laka means the skeleton. And a group of several of us from throughout, I called upon friends, organizers from Burning Man, from different organizations to come and participate. The theme is to participate. And we asked local businesses, local artists, children. We took over disused spaces. We had bilingual parties for children. We wanted to create a new story of Day of the Dead. And we wanted it to be participatory. And we linked with local government. And we took over the parks. We had urban youth coming out to do graffiti, all themed about Day of the Dead. We had artists. One of these, you had the Pegasus Parade here in Dallas, and maybe the Cow Parades. We had these calaveras, or skull parades, where we invited different artists to come and decorate their skulls. And one of the dreams come true. When I was at the temple in Burning Man, every sunset, there was this beautiful woman that would get up to the temple, and she would play at sunset the world's longest stringed instrument, the earth harp. Some of you may have seen it recently on television. And she came into the city, and every night at sunset, she used to play the songs to welcome the living and the dead. And the crowds gathered round, thousands of people in our central Jardin, rejoicing, and children and families, both American, non-American, everyone coming together to experience this beauty. And even the dead, as you could see, there was wind flowing throughout the night, and many thought that was the spirits of the dead that were coming to dance amongst us. It was a beautiful story. And even in the last minute, we had Spencer Tunick, our invited guest, photographer, gather on this freezing cold day, Sunday, to gather and take a picture, an invitational picture called Spirits, which he did for this event. Now, I'm not asking you to trivialize death, and in no way, this is the most respectful invitation I have for you. I realize there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of loneliness, there's a lot of anger surrounding the deaths of loved ones. But what I am asking you is to reconsider the stories surrounding it. In October, and with a month left to go before this festival, a good friend of mine from London contacts me to tell me her 15-year-old child had just taken her life. And I was there, caught in the middle of organizing all of this, and I didn't know what to do. And yet there was this festival coming on. And I remember through the festival, and in my heart, I had her. And I danced with this beautiful little ballerina whose life was just beginning. And I gave her my love, and I connected with her. And as I danced, the energy transformed, and I sent her love, and I gave her a farewell, and I have her in my heart. Now, I wonder, Dallas, Texas, you've just lost your beloved son, and so this is an invitation. Imagine next year we have a big Larry Hagman ofrenda, or offering. And JR is back with us, and we dance. We can do the Cotton Eye Joe. Is that how it goes? As we can see here, last year with Steve Jobs, we had a great ofrenda in our local Jardin. I'm asking you to rethink death and look at it for a new opportunity. Think of it. If we can celebrate death, we have a better chance to celebrate our lives. Thank you very much. Gracias.